What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Unofficial PlayStation Plus podcast, your monthly slice for all things PlayStation Plus. News, reviews, opinions, and reactions, we got them all every last Sunday of the month. I'm your host, Vincent Kenny, and joining me on this episode is our very special guest, Mr. Philip McCabe, to talk about all the PlayStation Plus games for the month of February 2021. But before we get to all of that, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing okay. I appreciate that you called me your special guest. It makes me feel both special needs and special important.
Exactly. You're a double threat. I guess like if you
Damn right. I'm like a double-edged sword.
You just need to like get like a dad bod and then you can get the triple threat. You're a charity case.
Dude,
and like a compelling.
It's here. For those of you just listening, this bod is being represented.
20 pounds don't count. If someone like comes
this
out
is
of
all the COVID-19.
Exactly. If someone comes out of quarantine and they're like skinnier, I'm gonna be really suspicious. I'm like, what kind of things did you get to into quarantine?
Cocaine.
But yeah, so a new thing that I'm starting is just what are the last 3 things you've watched, played, and listened to?
Watched. I've been going through the all of the canon Star Wars shows and movies in chronological order, and I am currently on Rebels, which is much better than I thought it would be, so I'm pretty happy I've done that. I am playing Hitman Absolution because I can't afford to buy the current gen ones, and I forget the last quest.
Well, what is it? I believe with Hitman 3, you get 1 and 2 for free, so that would probably be the best way to play it.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty okay with Absolution. The story from it was just delightful.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I want to watch those. I know it's just nerds being nerds, but like the flow charts you need to watch those Star Wars shows are kind of like that's something that I hate about a lot of animation shows like that is like the fact that people have to do these specific lists. It's like, oh, watch these episodes and watch and then skip to season 7. And I'm like, no, if just put the show out. Like if I have to do all this background stuff to watch a show, it's kind of annoying. And that's why I haven't started Rebels or Clone Wars, even though I hear very good things from them.
Well, thankfully, I'm not that dedicated. I've just been, this is the next on my list. I'm not jumping back and forth because parts of Clone Wars is still before the fall of the Republic and so on and so forth. So I'm not that dedicated.
Yeah, one day I will do it, but that's such a turn off for me is having to do to need a spreadsheet, because I kid you not, there's this one anime series that I want to watch, and like I don't even have how to describe it. I guess they treat each season like a video game, so they do the same story, but then there's slight changes, and then each season has a different ending, and then those endings have like new stories and all these branches and stuff. And I'm like, I really want to get into this series. It sounds really cool, but this is getting like a little too butterfly effect for me.
Now that is a reference you don't get to make every day.
Dude, I am a huge Kush fan.
How can you not? He's just so handsome and... Anyway, professionalism, as you say.
No, I am all for some good Manhunter, PS Plus approved. Cocaine uses, slightly ambiguous.
What if it's Ashton Kutcher doing cocaine subscribing to PlayStation Plus?
I feel like that's the only time someone would do that. It's like, I'm just so out of my mind, let's subscribe. They wake up in the morning and it's not like they have a tattoo or like embarrassing like photo. It's just like, I subscribe to this channel, now I gotta have to listen to their shit.
Oh, they're definitely, at that point, they're morally obligated to listen even if they don't want to.
I have this one channel that I don't know where the fuck it came from. I think this was like when I first started. I was like a young, and I was basically just doing a follow for follow thing. But like, I see this guy's videos pop up, and I'm like, I don't know this guy. I don't interact with him. Like, I don't talk to him on Twitter or whatever. This random guy is just like on my thing, and like it's been 2.5 years, and I just feel embarrassed to like unfollow him, even though I have no idea who the f- he is.
Oh god, my Facebook is riddled with people like that.
So you can see, I just sent you a photo, but yes, I love that stuff. But again, it's just that's why it's always funny. Because I'm a f***ing dork, so very rarely do I consider myself a casual fan of anything. But Star Wars is one of those things. It's like, yeah, I just need the movies. Like, I am not gonna read all the because there's like what like hundreds of books and then all the shows and comics and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, that's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, I'm I'm not that dedicated. I'd like to think that I am, but not to that extent. I just don't have enough time to be that dedicated.
Yeah, that's the main thing for me is I'm just at this weird part of my life where everyone is always like, oh, this has 7 or 8 seasons, and I'm like, no, I'm not making that commitment. But it's like, yo, this is one season. It has like 10 episodes. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. That's manageable. I can accomplish that.
That's where the pandemic has been good to a certain extent, because I got through the entirety of Supernatural with the exception of the final season before the final season aired. So it was perfect. It was 15 seasons in a couple months.
Again, that's another one. Like, I hear so much great things about it. Like, I'm sure I would love the show, but it's just like looking at that mountain, and it's like, yeah, I'm not gonna start a 15 season show.
I mean, Sam and Dean Winchester are probably worth it. And I swear to your listeners, I am not a homosexual. I've had some beers, so
sober or not, we appreciate a good man.
Yummy.
Nathan Drake is a hunk. There, I kept it on brand. Like, there you go. Kratos with the dad beard, perfection.
There you go.
But and then real quick, I totally interrupted. What was the last thing you listened to?
Last thing I listened to. That would be the Making Podcasts Great Again podcast, where a comedian, J.L. Colvin, impersonates Donald Trump and has for the past several years to hilarious perfection.
I know.
Oh, God, it's so good. So good.
I know. They're like, because like it's me and I like to yell at people online. So many people have been like, "Oh, are you upset that like Trump's gone? Like you're not gonna have anyone to pick on or make fun of?" And it's like, no, I will not take a 100 of the greatest stand-ups if it means getting the fucking orange out. Like I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, that's a trade I'll take all day, every day.
But yeah, so let's just hop right into, as my phone freaks out, the game discussions for January 2021. So you were offered Maneater on PS5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider on PS4, and Greedfall also on PS4. So like we discussed in the preamble, unfortunately my plans were I was going to stream Tomb Raider 2 and then a little bit of Tomb Raider 3 before this podcast. And then love of my life, she came into my life, and I've just been very distracted with her. So I haven't even played 3, let alone Tomb Raider 2. So I'm going to be very heavily relying on you. But that being said, just like, what's your give me your brief overviews of Tomb Raider.
Female Nolan North would be my big.
How dare you? This is
note.
Like, I guess yes. It's like, well, it's weird because Samus is already a girl, but like I just imagine like how do I describe it? Like, I'm always like, oh yeah, Uncharted's realistic, and then you look at Tomb Raider and it's like, no, this is really gritty and serious. Like I was playing the intro of 2, and then I missed a cutscene and like I fell off a cliff. I forgot how horrific the deaths in this game are. Like, they do not hold back.
No, and that's something I think that's definitely a positive, as weird as it sounds to say it's positive that it's super gory like that. But to me, this reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise and the fact that she gets the crap kicked out of her in every game is a testament to the storytelling and the technology that they're able to. For instance, in the very first game, she falls and gets a piece of wood that sticks through her side, and it's like, yeah, and then you have to mash the button to pull it out. And you see super successful franchises like The Last of Us, where there is those quick time events where you're having to mash a button to pull something out, and the intensity, the power of those moments absolutely translates to Tomb Raider. And there's a couple sequences in Shadows of the Tomb Raider where stuff like that happens, and it's like, wow, you have me hooked for a game that's literally free right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's what I was gonna say. That's the thing I like is that Uncharted. Like, I think I love Uncharted because it is a dumb popcorn action flick, and this is still a dumb popcorn flick, but it's kind of like a Inception or like a Tenet or something like that, where it's like, okay, we're still a movie, but we're gonna try and be a little bit more clever with things. Like, because yeah, like Laura just like again, I haven't even beat two. I'm probably like 5-6 hours in, but the amount of times Laura has just gotten like her crap beat in, and I'm like, the entire time I'm just playing this game, it's just like, God, this poor woman. Like, these developers must just have something against her because they always just put her in like these horrific, like, up situations.
Well, yes and no. Like, I think from a developer standpoint, it's exciting that you're able to push the boundaries of not only what the technology can accomplish, but what Lara, the fictional person, can accomplish. She probably has several concussions before the first game's even done, and she still kicks ass and takes names. So it's
Exactly.
on. Perhaps I'm going way too philosophical here, but I think it is a testament to what humans can accomplish if they push through uncomfortability, if they push through pain.
No, absolutely, because it seems like a weird positive, but it actually kind of makes things a lot more intensive because like I think I played one above normal difficulty, but like they just immediately get like into your head. It's like because we're so used to the hey, just run and gun and shoot people and like mow them down. You're the badass. You're the lone soldier. You can do all this. And Tomb Raider is like, no, you will die. They have guns. You need to run away and like hide and like plan and like strategize and like it's able to make Laura feel strong and like independent while also kind of making her feel weak and like she's not this uber badass and like just like this trained killer. She is literally just like a girl using her wits to survive and do all that other stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's the way Lara, the character, has evolved since her inception, what, like 20 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she has morphed from just a video game character to a role model of sorts that
Mm-hmm.
she's able to push through all these things. And when you have people like Oscar winning or nominated rather Alicia Vikander playing her, and Angelina Jolie before that, and the wonderful voice actor that plays Lara in this franchise,
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool to see how this one-off video game that they probably didn't think was going to turn into anything became an incredibly successful and multiple decade spanning franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say as a just a quick side tangent. Have you seen the newest Tomb Raider, or because I'd love to? Unfortunately, just one of those bucket list things that I'll get to in a. I heard it was just like okay, but it kind of like makes the ending of the first game a bit weird.
I will say yes, it was okay, but it did a very good job at showing that they were directly pulling from this rebooted game franchise,
Mm-hmm.
because there's scenes in the movie, including getting impaled by the wood, that is almost like scene for scene the exact same in the game as it is in the movie. So it, like, their source material was clearly very important to them, but as a movie itself, yeah, it was Alicia Vikander kicking ass. Whoopee.
I know this is such a random nitpick, but like something that offended me as a person was there. It's like not even that big a deal, but there's just this scene in the trailer where I guess she meets up with Nick Frost or whatever the British guy's name is,
Yeah.
and Yeah, and it's just like that's a scene from the end of the movie. You think you can trick me, movie, but no, I'm smarter than you. I know what's up. And I'm like, I'm so smart. I'm not going to see your movie out of protest.
How very hip of you.
I know.
But no, she meets Nick Frost near the beginning of the movie, so get.
Oh no! I'm so sorry, Alicia Vikander. My one movie ticket. That's the one that would have pushed it over and made it a box office success.
Your one ticket is
You
the
lost.
difference.
You lost .007 of the Canadian market. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh goodness. But
Um.
yeah, this game we should probably focus on a little bit because that is the point.
No, it's all loosey goosey. Like I said, this is just there. I don't. I have notes and I have things, but I don't think this will ever be a structured show. But I was gonna say, because you did, we have brought it up a couple different times, and like I kind of really do like how they do the open world stuff, especially compared to Uncharted, because I know like even Uncharted 4 they tried to have like open world sections, but I think it was just like Africa and the island. Like there was only two, big open world spots. Excuse me, as I knock my equipment around. But with like Tomb Raider, it definitely has that like branching paths, and you can explore and do that other stuff. And I would just like want to know which one you prefer and like what your thoughts on both of them are.
Well, I think, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, with all due respect to the developers of Tomb Raider, I think Naughty Dog and Uncharted just executed that style of game, that environment, that relatively open world, but still keeping it contained. Mm-hmm. They executed that just better than what you see in the Tomb Raider games. But that's not to say what happens in the Tomb Raider games and the ability to explore and everything isn't good. Mm-hmm. But,
it feels a bit more disposable.
It's, yeah, and it feels like, okay, I've done this before because we had games like Uncharted that kind of set the tone for that archaeologist kicking ass and taking names adventure that is Tomb Raider.
Yeah, something I don't know if it's in the third game, but something I do kind of like about the second is that Laura has to learn the languages of like stuff she wants to use. So like I know where I am right now, like, you're in this Russian base, and like there's stuff you can interact with, but Laura's just like, oh well, I can't read Russian, and like you have to find more collectibles and like find different parts of the environment, and that actually helps Laura learn these different languages. And it's not like you leveled up your your language skill, so like you just magically learn every language. Like you have to learn each language individually. So like I think it's some weird thing where like right now my Laura knows like 2% Russian and like 80% of like ancient Hebrew.
Nice. What an eclectic group of languages.
Yeah, because I was gonna say
eclectic is fancy for random.
Yeah, always with the excess. Because I was gonna say I don't know what the third one is, but I'm surprised in just like a weird way that this was like, I'm sure it was probably a big deal at the time, but it's kind of weird to me that the second game is finding Jesus. I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, I mean, there's only so many routes you can go with games like that when they're based in, relative historical fact. Mm-hmm. So finding Jesus, I definitely forgot that was a thing, but in specifically in Shadows, it's got a bit of a 2012 feel where it's like, oh,
that would explain the Mayan stuff.
This discovery is going to bring about the end of the world through the Mayan. Yeah, oh yeah, it's all Mayan gods and bringing about the apocalypse because Lara tried to stop an evil organization from getting something, and it's fun.
There's only one 2012 game I believe in, and that's Assassin's Creed 3, sir.
Oh yeah, that makes me feel old that I had to think about that.
Honestly, I'm well past that point because like I don't know how to say it without sounding creepy, but like I talk to a lot of children online, um, and just like I congregate with the youth, but they're not that much younger. It's just like because like I'm gasp almost 30, and they're like in their like early 20s. Some of them are even 19 or whatever. But I just find it so funny to them when they're like, "Oh my God, Red Dead 1 is like 10 years old or whatever," or things like that. Because like I think this year is Resident Evil's 25th anniversary, and it's like Zelda's 30th, and I think Pokemon is like 23 or 24. Actually might be 25 even, but I'm long past that point. Like I'm just like, yep, I'm an old man. I've come to accept it.
Well, I mean, for added insight, the very first Hitman game is 18.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy to me that when these games were coming out, and like, oh, these are so revolutionary, and now goddamn whippersnappers get these crazy amazing graphics and stuff, and I'm like, hey, you don't know having to gather around a friggin' VGA tiny like 10-inch screen and share the screen with 3 other players.
That's my like biggest fear, because one day I would like to potentially have children, and there's always that fear in the back of my head that like they're gonna be like, oh, this TV sucks and the controller is small and whatever, and I'm just gonna be like, oh, I'm signing them adoption papers tomorrow, and you're just out the door.
Sonny, you don't know what it's like. We used to have to yell at grandma to get off the phone so I could use the internet.
I shared like a meme about that the other day, but it is kind of weird because like those children have already been born. Like some of them are probably 7 or 8 at this point, but like I think my sister was on the edge because she was like 97, but like really we are the last generation that grew up with, like, we had a period in our life without the internet. We knew what it was like before then, and like all these children growing up now, it's just that's just like a normalcy thing for them. Like they've always expected the internet to be there, and like that's what makes me feel old. It's like I feel like someone talking about the first telephone. It's like, no, you have to take like 4 hours to load a page, and like you like had to make sure like I just feel so old for stuff like that, because I don't know how I'm gonna explain that to my children. It's like, oh, Dad, what did you do when you were like 5 or 6? I'm like, I don't know, I climbed trees and stuff. I just stared at the ocean for a few hours and then went home and stared at the ceiling.
Why would you do that in real life when you can do that in this game, Daddy?
Oh God, it's like I think the worst for me was, I was with a friend a few months ago, and I was watching their kid while they got ready, and I saw he was watching a Minecraft video, and I was like, oh hey yo, like I love Minecraft, that's my favorite game. Like hey, like talk to your dad and like maybe we can play sometime. And the kid was just like, oh no, I don't want to play this. I just want to watch other people playing it. And I'm like, oh no, oh my old man heart.
Now, Vince, I feel like we need to shift the conversation because you're about to get swatted. I feel.
Yeah.
You keep making reference to playing with children. Someone's gonna kick down your door.
And no, like it's I'm legally I have to say I don't know. That is my defense, Your Honor. Yeah. But no, we can move on from that. Come on, be a pal. But yeah, before we move on,
I'll be your best friend.
I got a lollipop. But yeah, before we move on, is there any other last things you want to say about Tomb Raider? Again, I feel bad about missing the latest one, but definitely I'm gonna finish the second one because I really I am enjoying it. It's just I think that's the thing that sucks the most is it's one of those games where they they give you so many stuff on the map, and there's like so many different icons you don't know where to go, but and it's usually just like one like small collectibles. It kind of feels like busy work more than you like you actually going on these adventures. But I do like the crafting part. I do like that, like, I kind of wish it was further just because I'm sadistic like that, but I do like the fact that you have to craft your own weapons and um, armors and skills and all that other thing. And like, again, I think it's able to stand out from Uncharted and do its own thing without really feeling repetitive. And I do appreciate that because like the amount of people who just say like, oh, it's just a Tomb Raider or it's just an Uncharted, it's an Uncharted. It's like, no, it has parts of Uncharted, but it kind of can be its own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. My final note with not just Shadows, but all three of them is I I really didn't like that as soon as you got flame arrows, it was an instant win button because it didn't matter what the bad guy was. If you clipped them anywhere with the flame arrows, they were dead.
Yeah, but
In all three games, they didn't correct that.
Yeah, but I think that's just a gaming issue because as I search real quick, because I think the first one has like such an amazing game. Sorry, like such an amazing story. Like it is uh those first 2 hours or so is jaw dropping and I'm just seeing my notes. Oh, that's my mouse breaks. Yeah, okay. I did do it. Okay, yeah. So there's a video on my channel. Fondly remembering Viral Vinny. Go check it out. But the super short is, I love that game, but it is just so weird to go from those first 2 hours where Laura is getting, she's getting like battered and bruised, and like she's going through these intense emotions, and like they make a big deal about the first time Laura kills a person, like that it's individual cutscene and it's very dramatic, and like I actually liked how it was because like the way it was acted, she was like doing this heavy breathing and she just like felt so out of control, and like it's honestly one of my favorite scenes from that game. And then you just oppose it with like 10 minutes later, she's just like headshot, headshot, headshot.
Well, the same could be said about Far Cry though, or Far Cry 3 rather, that it starts with that super cinematic experience of like partying with your friends, then you're in the cage, and then you're running from Voss, and when you kill that first person, he like shudders and drops the knife and he's all worried and stuff, and then where I think Far Cry 3 did it right is later in the game when I forget the main character, when he's talking to whomever, he's like, I hated it at first, but now it feels like winning. It was such a stunning contrast to like to have that level of badassery. Like he feels good for massacring people and bringing it back to Tomb Raider, because that's what we're focusing on here, is Laura does a good job that even with her badassery, even with her murdering people with headshots and flaming arrows and stuff, for her it literally is just out of necessity. It comes down to her survival or the bad guys, nothing more. And I'm sure that on a deep psychological level, if she was a real person, then yeah, she'd probably be pretty fucked up. But she is not real, so we don't have to worry.
All the fun of like seeing someone tortured without any of the moral obligations.
Absolutely, like that GTA 5 sequence with Trevor.
I see Trevor is one of those characters, like he's kind of like the Joker for me, where whenever someone says, oh man, I love Trevor, he's such a badass, I wish I could be like Trevor, I'm always like, oh, okay, I'm backing the hell away, like this person needs some help. Because I've always viewed,
we all need Jesus.
I always viewed Trevor as one of those characters like that you can like, but you have to understand how messed up he is. Like, because a lot of people, that's what worries me about people, is that they kind of miss the point. You're not supposed to agree with Trevor. you can like understand and you can like go, okay, I get it. Like Trevor's just crazy. He's been through a lot of stuff, but like there's people who are just like, nah, yeah, I love him. He don't take no shit. I'm like, okay, so I'm calling the police and you can have a good life.
Well, that's where I get continually frustrated with people that say that The Last of Us Part 2 wasn't a good game and that the story was bad. And like, to me, the people that say that clearly don't understand the message, the story that was being told.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, the
because
fact that Abby went from someone everyone hates to at the very end of the game, and at this point,
yeah.
spoiler warning, but if you haven't played it to this point, I don't really care, to go from hating her so intensely to when you're doing that final quick time event strangling or
Yeah.
drowning her, I
Mm-hmm.
was literally yelling at my TV to stop while I was mashing the button to keep going.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people had like
But like
difficulty with
that's
that ending because they were just like I can't do it. Like I can't bring myself to have these two characters fight. And I don't know what it says about me as like a sadistic human. I just did it like effortlessly. But it wasn't until after it was over I was like, oh, I kind of did a bad thing there.
and that I think this is kind of an aside is to me that is why The Last of Us Part 2 is my favorite game of all time because
Mm-hmm.
I even like I tweeted at Neil Druckmann, Troy Baker, and Laura Bailey, to which no one answered, but that's not the point. That I've never had a video game make me feel all of these emotions while I was playing it. You know, video games are fun, but I've never had a game make me sad, make me angry, make me joyful, make me appreciate the people in my life for something as simple as what a nice moment in the museum. Like it was beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I think that's the worst part is like people are very black and white. I was disappointed, but like the first one is a 10 out of 10 like masterpiece and this one's just like a 9.5. Like yeah, okay, there's some flaws but it's still really really good. And like they're all minor stuff and it's just like it's still a really good game and like we're past spoilers but like again I definitely think that's one of those things like people have to play. Like normally I'm like, you can wait, you can whatever. I'm like, no, like that's one of those ones you need to experience now.
Yeah, and that to me is the key word there is experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like it because it's not just a game, it's an experience. Like I went on a fucking roller coaster with my emotions during that game. But what
Uh,
is this Maneater that is also available?
okay, so while we transitioned, yeah, the other ones, Man Eaters is basically just a Jaws ripoff. So you play as a shark and you swim around and you eat people. It it's basically like a arcade type game where the more destruction you cause, like the bigger your shark gets and the more messed up stuff. So like it's very ragdolly, and by the end you're just like flopping onto the highway and just like eating whole trucks and whatever. And it's goofy and it's silly, but like I'm all for that honestly.
That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna get to that one of those eventually. Um, professionalism, and I check the notes. Yeah, so we are gonna move on from that. But before we do that, we are gonna take a small ad break. As always, this is a independent, self-funded show. But if you want to show your support, I think there's a Patreon. I'm like 60% sure I did that a while ago. Yeah, PS Plus Pod on Patreon if you want to support us there. PS Plus. Why I always screw that up. I call it Plod. PS Plus Pod at gmail.com if you want to do business inquiries. But until that time, we're going to say that this ad is brought to you by Tim Hortons. It doesn't matter if you're a construction worker, a man on a go, or a cokehead at 4 in the morning. Tim Hortons is always there for you. Tim Hortons don't judge. Tim Hortons only offers sweet, delicious coffee.
That was a quality advertisement there, Vince.
Eventually I've gotten better at the making up stuff. I'm so excited because excited like in a bad way, but like um the cul-de-sac where I moved into about a year ago, they just started development on like a mini mall type thing, and it's like legit like 2 minutes from my house, and there is not only a Tim Hortons but a Starbucks right next to each other, and I'm like I don't know what to do. I can't decide.
That's an easy answer because Starbucks is like 15 times more expensive.
Yes, that's right. I literally took my girlfriend just out to a drive, and we got like two small, like ice frap things. It's like a coffee and some whipped cream and whatever. And I think it came to be like $14 after tax for two smalls.
That. And their weird ass European names and their stupid sizes and their venti frappuccino lick my butthole. No, thank you for that.
I love Starbucks, but it's very much a.
So it's good you went with Starbucks.
No, it's I love it, but it's really one of those like a special occasion. You know what I mean? Like, oh hey, I got this job or I did this thing or whatever. Like, it's like, oh hey, I want to celebrate. Let's go have Starbucks. Because Timmy's I probably spend more with because it's so cheap, and it's always just like go for another and like next thing I know I've had like 4 in one day. I'm like, oh, so that's why my heart is like just beating out of my chest.
Well, good old Timmy Ho is there for all your occasions, where Starbucks is like a black tie event coffee shop.
But yeah, we're gonna move on to the news, which surprisingly pretty light in January. But we have so give me a second while you vamp.
Well, here's the thing about the grilled cheese sandwiches.
Okay, so I found them.
They're not designed for fun.
I found them, but here's the thing. I understand American cheese is plastic and disgusting, and you probably should not be ingesting it. But real cheese is not that stackable. Until you find me a real cheese that is that stackable, I'm sorry, I'm gonna put the garbage plastic into my body. I will always take convenience over, quality.
No, and the best grilled cheese sandwich, you get your local Real Canadian Superstore or Zayre's or whatever your grocery store of choice is, and you get yourself the Black Diamond slices. You get yourself a cheddar, you get yourself a Swiss, and you get yourself some Parmesan, and you put that on some bread, obviously, or bun if you prefer. I'm not going to tell you how to eat a sandwich, and then little garlic and all of those cheeses. It's just delightful.
But yeah, so let's go from delicious grilled cheeses to delicious newses. We have 4 stories on the docket. The first one is just very simply, if my thing wants to load, that Hogwarts Legacy has been delayed to 2022. Okay, yeah. The thing won't load properly, but yeah, that's pretty much the whole story. Hogwarts Legacy is delayed till next year. So I have a 2-part question for you, sir. The first one, are you at all interested in this game or even Harry Potter in general?
Yes, I'm interested in Harry Potter to a certain extent. I'd be lying if I said all that nonsense with J.K. Rowling didn't deter me a little bit.
Well, yes, that was my second question. Is a lot of people have started to come out recently saying they're going to boycott the game and any future movies and things of that sort. And I it's a very difficult stance to have because I understand why people feel that way and they're like they want to pay and contribute to this creator. But I don't know. I'm kind of like on both sides of it because I understand, like, I don't support what she says. I don't agree with what she says. But to me, like, I feel Harry Potter at this point is bigger than just her. Like I know she's been very controlling with the movies and all that other stuff, and like she wrote part of the stage play, which was just god awful. Um, like I only skimmed a few pages, but they do some pretty stupid stuff, and a lot of people like to pick on the other writers, but it's like no, J.K. was part of this. She approved this. So I am very torn about where to do with all that because it might just be me, but like I am fine kind of separating the artists from their work to a certain degree. The two like go-tos I always go to are Kanye and Michael Jackson. I don't approve of their lifestyles or the ways they lived, but like their music slaps. And like they have some really good bangers. And yes, morally, maybe I should just drop all of them and just say like to heck with it, but I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those trying to take the good with the bad and not have the bad ruin the good.
No, for sure. And like the way I see Harry Potter as a whole and bringing it back to this game, I will gladly enjoy this game in spite of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not gonna the universe that she created, the universe that got initially turned down by multiple publishers,
Mm-hmm.
transcends her transphobic comments, transcends her as a person. Your dogs are not a fan of life.
They're like, we don't like your opinion, sir. You get out of here. No, yeah, like that's the weird.
Cast a spell on them.
Because that's a weird thing I found very interesting was, the other day ago they announced that a Harry Potter show is in the works. And I did find it interesting that people are like, screw that, I hate her, and then the show was announced. They're like, oh, I'm so excited for this. I'm all about this. So it seems like even with people, they have their own kind of sliding scale about what they can get excited for and what they can't.
Well, a contrast or a comparison rather that I didn't think of until this week was Kevin Spacey. I love all of his movies, but as it came out with the Me Too movement, he's a piece of shit. So like I never even finished Baby Driver before the Me Too movement, and then I felt uncomfortable watching it after learning all these things that he had done because I don't want to reward this piece of garbage.
Yeah.
But is this ever good?
I know. That's a weird part because I am the same. I bought it on Blu-ray because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch this movie. Everybody loves this movie, and then it's just been sitting there. And the longer it sits, the more it's like, I don't know if I can go back now. Like I don't know, it just feels weird.
And Baby Driver in particular, I forgot about the fact that the star of it also got accused of pretty heinous things. So anyway, Baby Driver aside, Harry Potter Legacy, I think if this company making it can do better than CD Projekt Red, they're great. Because I don't want to wait 7 years for Harry Potter Legacy and have it be a big old steaming pile of dog shit.
That's the interesting thing is like when the game got announced last October, September, October, that like the day afterwards they came out with a press release. Hey guys, JK's not involved. She just gave us the outline. She approved some notes, but like we're not working with her and all this other stuff. So I just find it interesting that they got so far like ahead out of it and just like they wanted people to go like, no, we are not part of this.
Well, that's the way forward, though, for that kind of affiliation. Like, if it came out that J.J. Abrams was a sack of crap, I'm sure Disney and the Star Wars universe would be like, no, we have nothing to do with him. That has nothing to do with us. Go away.
Yeah, no, if anyone's going to undo those movies, it's Baby Grogu. But yes, it's
Baby Grogu's the best.
I've always told people it just also Mandalorian spoilers for like a month and a half ago, I guess. But like I've always told people, it just sounds like a baby throwing up. It's like Grogu.
or it sounds like this year's hottest selling toy. Wink.
I know. I felt so bad for the advertisers because it came out November last year, and it would have been too early to sell the merch. But now it's been a year, and I'm just like, is there still a demand for this stuff? And I'm like, oh no, it's sold like hotcakes. I'm in the wrong. I know nothing about marketing. And speaking of marketing, PlayStation has hired Microsoft's former sales leads, and this comes to us from Game Rant. Professionalism. PlayStation hires Vanilla. I swear, I am a professional. I need.
Words are hard, dude. It's okay.
No, I like. There's so many. Like a lot of people. Like you see a lot of content creators. Like they have all these shirts and all this stuff, and it's just like anything they could. Make anytime they've said something slightly funny, like slap that on a shirt. And I've always been like, the second I start selling stuff, I want to spell like professionalism, but like misspelled and like miscolored and all this other stuff. Like, there's nothing more on brand for me than just
in crayon.
Yeah, exactly, just messing up like right at the finish line. Anyway, PlayStation hires Veronica Rogers, Microsoft's former business developer and sales lead, to lead a major position on its sales team. Roger will play an important role at PlayStation, helping to not just make money from the sales of the PS5, but also from subscription services like the PlayStation Plus. Roger has joined the PlayStation team as a senior vice president of business operations after 20 years at Dellsworth Technology and Microsoft, which is one of Sony's biggest competitors. In a statement, Rogers said that the PlayStation brand is one of the most beloved in the world, and I'm excited to join a tech company that has such a passionate community, legendary history, and amazing leadership. PlayStation's new senior vice president also said that her experience leading global sale organizations will help excel the PlayStation business and deliver gaming experiences to fans across the world. So, rich CEO gets slightly richer. But I do find this kind of interesting that we can get into it a little bit later. From a, I guess, content perspective, it's like this is probably the first gen I've been most excited for Xbox as a platform, because like I've always just viewed it as a PlayStation but different. Like, yeah, there's exclusive games, but 90% of them are on PlayStation, and Switch is doing its own thing. But the fact that Microsoft has leaned so hard into streaming and all that other stuff, like it really changes, I think, what being an Xbox gamer like means to me, at least, because I think, like, the Nintendo fans have always been like, hey, we just like kiddie, goofy, silly games. We're like, we're just here, we're having fun, we're like family friendly, like we're the Disney. And PlayStation has been like, we're giving you 3 or 4 experiences a year. Like, we're not gonna pump them out, we're not gonna have it like every month. But when we release a new game, it is gonna be an event, is gonna be a moment. And I think Xbox has found this nice kind of middle ground of like, hey, we are just the console for casual gamers. You just want to go on, you want to play some games, you don't want to like think about it. Like, hey, we've added this to Game Pass, we've added this to Games with Gold. Like, here's a bunch of free stuff for you to try out, play for 2 hours, delete, and like move on to the next game. Compared to PlayStation, where I think it is a lot more, really like trying to. I can't think of the analogy. I was gonna say juice a steak, but
I don't think you can juice a steak.
Like when you, I swear there's a phrase. It's like wring a towel or something, or squeeze a lemon or something.
Oh, Vince, don't ever change.
Is that not how you make orange juice? I assumed you just like you just squeeze it like a tube of toothpaste.
You gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet. Is probably a good one. Or I don't know. It's too late during the time of recording for that kind of thought process.
Yeah, but again, so not a big news on its own, but it's just kind of cool to see because about oh God, it was the last time I was doing podcasts. So about 2 years ago, there was a big shift in the leadership of PlayStation, and I've always told people that is my big worry. Is that I think so far they've been doing good, but like my biggest worry was PS3 came out like just and it got its ass handed to it. Um, it just like got decimated by Xbox, and that made them really hungry that they like came back for the end of the console and they actually outsold the 360, and then they went into the PS4 with all this like good vibes and positivity and all the other stuff. But like because the PS4 was so successful, like they kind of shifted back to their like arrogant side where they're like, oh yeah, we're the top dogs, we can do whatever we want. And it's like, no, like maybe be a little bit humble. So I'm hoping that all this new blood at PlayStation is going to keep them on their toes and keep them level headed.
I think that's a fair want for PlayStation as a company. Then that seems reasonable.
As I vamp, doing a vamp song. And while I fiddle with this,
Told you about my grilled cheese.
no, I was gonna say a small micro story within a story, which now. Okay, so this is purely a PlayStation thing. Excuse me, a developer, not PlayStation. But one of the interesting things about Maneater was basically it launched on PS4 and it had this like basically you automatically got the PS5 version for free, even though the PS5 version released like a year and a half later. And then even with that, when Sony announced the games for January, those developers actually refunded everyone who bought like the Maneater game like at launch or like whenever they bought it. So I do think it's kind of like I doubt a lot of games are going to do that. Like I said, this is purely just that one developer, but I think it's I do think it's kind of cool the idea that you get like a little bit of a refund of this stuff, because I know that's like people's biggest issue is that they'll like wait for a game, and then like, oh, it goes on sale.
Yeah, I don't think that this one off will become the normal, but that is amazing from a developer standpoint that they were willing to do that. Because I haven't played Maneater, but hearing that the next thing they come out with, I might be more inclined to give them my money, knowing that they're that kind of company that gave back when they really didn't need to.
Yeah, no, because like I think that's what's most tragic about Cyberpunk is like I can stand a bad game being bad, but it's just the fact like they went from like it's such a stupid thing, but I just love the fact that every copy of The Witcher 3 came with a little notebook and like a little thank you note, and it's like, hey, we this game means a lot to us. We're giving you a bunch of like they weren't charging for minor DLC, so they gave like free costumes, free hairstyles, all this other stuff. And then when they did do the DLC, it was basically a whole nother game. So it just sucks to go that they went from this super awesome, supportive, caring company to just like, oh yeah, we can ship it early. People don't care. Like as long as we get the pre-orders and stuff.
And for me, what sucked so much ass about Cyberpunk is the fact that they delayed it and delayed it and delayed it and still didn't catch all of these problems.
Well, like that's why I was talking with a friend about it. I don't think it's a fact that they didn't add it. It's just they knew, hey, people are gonna be pissed, but we can like there's only gonna be this much backlash, and that's gonna be enough to keep us financially like afloat. So I think it's not even the fact that they weren't aware; it's just they just kind of didn't care.
And I was in the early stages of the game. I will admit now that they've done a couple major updates and a few minor ones. It plays much better, but in those initial days of just after launch, I was pissed off at the fact that the game is so detailed that as you change the radio station in your car, the radio changes what it shows, and you see the little sound meters bouncing and stuff, which is super amazing details.
Mm-hmm.
But why are you focusing on like that when standing outside of my car, it looks like a rectangle floating over gray nothingness because you can't get it to render properly?
Dude, I didn't know the Tesla car was in there.
It's not even the Tesla. It was when it launched,
Mm.
it was, and I said this to my brother at the time, it was literally comparable to like first generation early Xbox 360, how bad it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's unacceptable in this day and age with the technology that we have to make something like that. But to your point of them not caring, the new generation of consoles and the PC players, very limited problems on that fancy hardware. So they're probably like, oh, those peasants with a PS4 and Xbox One, they'll have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's what I find most interesting was when we were going into this gen, um, Xbox caught a lot of slack because they were saying like, hey, for the next 2 years or whatever, all series whatever, still a stupid name, all Xbox games are going to be cross-platform. You're going to play it on any Xbox, whatever. And then PlayStation was a lot more like, no, we're cutting it off. We're sticking it here. Like these are PS5 games and whatever. And obviously both companies have backtracked or whatever. But I do find it interesting that like initially that seemed like a bad idea, and now I'm just like, huh, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I see why they were doing that.
Yeah, and Cyberpunk is the perfect example of that because they built this game, they built this universe to a scale and I guess can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, but they built it in such a way that it needs the better technology. It needs to be current gen, even if that pisses off the older generation players.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we are gonna go from all that hate and venom to more hate and venom. So this is a follow-up to a previous article. So for context, because I actually texted you about this earlier in the month, Xbox said it was going to increase the price of the live service.
Boo!
Yes, well, they've recently retweeted that they've backtracking on that decision, and this comes to us from The Verge. Microsoft has reversed its controversial Xbox Live price increase. The company announced a price increase on Friday that would have cost a year of subscriptions, or would have doubled the cost of a yearly subscriptions, which are required to play games online on Xbox, to $120 a year for many users. Now, though, Microsoft says the price will stay the same. Beyond that, Microsoft has decided to bring Xbox Live in line with Sony and PlayStation's online services by dropping the subscription requirement for free-to-play games. What? Free-to-play games like Fortnite are still playable on PlayStation consoles and Nintendo Switches without an online subscription, but you still need one for Xbox consoles. Microsoft said it's working hard to deliver this change as soon as possible in the coming months. The Microsoft's full statement is as below. We've messed up today, and you were right to let us know. Connecting. Sorry, I'm just gonna let that line sit for a second. We goofed up, guys. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we feel the need to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day. As a result, we have decided to not change Xbox Live's gold pricing. We're turning this moment into an opportunity to bring Xbox Live into line with how we see the players at the center of the experience. For free-to-play games, you will no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play those games on Xbox. We are working hard to deliver this change as soon as possible in the coming months. If you are a Xbox Live Gold member already and you stay at your current price for renewal, new and existing members can continue to play Xbox Live Gold for the same prices they paid today. In the US, $9.99 a month, $24.99 for 3 months, $39.99 for 6 months, and $59.99 for 12 months. Microsoft's focus in recent years has been on Game Pass, which had an ultimate tier that includes Xbox Live Gold. While Game Pass provides a great value for many players, the gold price increase came off as an attempt to nudge people into paying the more expensive service. It's not surprising that the initial announcement was so poorly received, but Microsoft's reversal is a good news for Xbox Live subscribers who aren't interested in Xbox Game Pass, or even better for the people who only use Xbox Live to play free-to-play games. So obviously it's all been taken care of, but I, like you said, I know you were very upset about the initial thought that they were going to increase the price like that.
And not to be overly cheesy here, but the beauty of video games is its accessibility, is the fact that almost all walks of life can try video games, can play them, can enjoy them. To increase your subscription like that, and this is when they were making that increase, this was without the new without changing the free to play thing. So little Johnny down the road, who finally convinced his mom to buy him Fortnite, he's gonna put it, thankfully now it's changed, but he puts it in his Xbox, and it's like, sorry, Timmy, you can't play your game because Microsoft is a bunch of savages.
I honestly, it wasn't until I was reading that article, I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, I just find it funny that because something Xbox players always throw at PlayStation is the fact that you I think you only get like 500 megabytes or something. I'm bad with data, but you only get like a certain amount for free, and if you want cloud storage, like you get 2 gigs of cloud storage with plus, but they're always like, ooh, ha ha ha, ours is free. And then I'm reading this, I'm like, you have to pay for free to play games. Like that's always been the standard of PlayStation. And I'm just like, it is kind of like it's like learning your neighbor just got electricity last week. It's like, how have you been living until now?
A change I would like to see is, I don't like that games like Ghost Recon and others require you to be online to play. So I hope that in the future game companies will make that change, that even if it's technically a multiplayer game like Ghost Recon, you don't necessarily need to be on. And bringing it back around to Microsoft and this stupid news, I had to delete Call of Duty Modern Warfare because it had, by the time I deleted it, occupied 130 gigabytes of my 200 gigabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
So it's absurd that I already can't play any other games, and now you're telling me that on top of occupying 90% of my hard drive, I would now need to spend $120 American just to play this game that occupies most of my hard drive.
That's always the worst part, is like I see the hype for Warzone, I see people talk about it, and I'm always like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna check it out, but like it's like 130 gigs. And like the thing I find even crazier was I recently streamed Black Ops 3, which is probably like 5-6 years at this point, and that game, for some insane reason, after you install, is like 97 gigs. And I don't have any of the map packs, I don't have any of this is just the base game as it's downloaded. And I'm like, why is this game so beefy? Like, I don't think it's a conspiracy, but it's pretty sketchy that, like, I feel like they did it on purpose, but they're like, yeah, just pad out the download size. That way they can't have any other games. We're their only game they'll play.
Well, that's, like I said, that's exactly why I deleted Call of Duty, because I wanted to play other things and there just wasn't room.
But yeah, speaking of them not being enough room, our last article, butt stuff. This article comes to us from the sixaxis.com, and it's, can gamers survive on a subscription service alone? And this article is a year old apparently, because I'm just a total professional, but I still think it is prevalent, and it does kind of lead into the discussions going forward. But yeah, January 2019, I don't know where the J came from. 2019 brought with it a particularly mundane January, at least financially, as the realization hit home that the Lightington family has done some classic festive overspending. Less money coming into the household didn't help much either, so it was time to do some bank account spring cleaning. What it immediately turned up was that we were subscribed to too many up to the hootsits to a bunch of things that were really essential, but that in previous 12 months we had merely clicked the subscribe button on. I'm gonna assume this is a British writer, or they're just having a lot of issues.
They might just be.
Without too much trouble, we found ourselves with over 7 different TV services, with Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Now TV nestling up our niche content provider by Crunchyroll, UFC Fight Pass, NFL Game Pass, and Milkshake for their stellar Thomas the Tank Engine coverage. The bountiful money-saving eye then turned towards my gaming subscriptions, in which all turned out to be due in February, and I had to make the decision to turn off their auto-renewals. Now, given that I write about games, it's obvious that PlayStation Plus, Xbox Live, and Switch Online are pretty integral to what I do, and so I turned off the Turndle? TRUNDLED.
I don't know what that is. That sounds like they might have had a stroke.
So I turned off the game with a pile of old games, traded them in, and bought fresh new subs for the lot. There's not too many hobbies where you can get away with that. Besides, the sweet online access to games that each of them are given across the year will more than be enough to fill my digital backlog. And the whole thing got me thinking, could you subscribe on subscriptions alone? I'm just gonna professionalism is the best. Okay. So EA Access, Humble Bundle, and Game Pass were also a dire debit, and here's where the line was drawn. Humble Bundle was doubling down on games with gold or PlayStation Plus were firing out. Now I have 3 copies of Destiny 2, which is probably too many for me. And EA Access is really only on COP if you want to demo their biggest hitters before actually buying them. Admittedly, that was probably a lifesaver for most, having to bash with Anthem, and even I still like it. I know. I like Anthem and Destiny 2. I'm a despicable human being. That got very melodramatic out of nowhere. Xbox Game Pass has always stayed, though, and Microsoft's provision makes its own case. The ability to play all of their first-party releases on launch day as part of their package is brilliant. In the last year, I've been able to play Forza Horizon 4, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, and State of Decay 2, while your malign will undoubtedly vary. Your mileage. I'm super literate. I think that's the kind of service where I'm constantly discovering games that I wouldn't have otherwise bought, with Mutant Year Zero, one of my favorite games of the year this far. It's the same model as your Netflix and your Prime Gaming, mixing old and new content exclusively, as it covers a wide spectrum as possible, as it seems to be ideal solution going forward. Google Stadia and PlayStation Now are the ones of the pair are. I'm just super literate. For me, at least, I just don't see streaming as being a viable replacement for a machine that's in the room with you. As it stands, streaming just leaves too many variables, and the infrastructure in the UK, particularly beyond the major cities, just still isn't up to that much. That said, plenty of rural villages around us have better internet, so maybe I just need to move to the countryside. While we know nothing about what really services like Stadia will offer now, again, year-old article, it's jank games. PlayStation Now will at least give you access to a wide spectrum of games, but despite having a wider selection, and yes, it does now include PS2 and PS4 games on the service, it feels like a step behind what Microsoft is serving up. Okay, and then just finally, it makes perfect sense that subscriptions will be the way forward for a number of gamers. Just in the delivery system has changed for TV, it feels like the next logical steps for games to be heading in the same direction, particularly while we're still making a clear shift towards a digital future. As games and service strengthen its hold on the industry, the lines will be drawn for the next battle of the console wars. We're not quite there, but the subscription services are likely to be an integral battleground as we move forward towards the next generation of consoles. Um, so using that as a springboard and kind of piggybacking of what we said before, it's good that they didn't increase the price to double for nothing. But like I was always telling people, these services are 10 years old and they're like they really haven't had a price increase. I think like maybe $1 here, $1 there, but for the most part, they've been the same for a long time. And even right now, Netflix is. I know a lot of people are upset because Netflix is like I think in Canada, the 4-tier ultra plan is now $18 a month. So like I said, I believe I've asked you this before, but what like when the time comes for games with gold to increase its price, what would you kind of need for it to feel like you're doing okay, like you're fine with that price increase? Because even with Disney Plus, they're going up in February to $11, which is still not super crazy. But they're adding a bunch of like R-rated and mature adult content, and like adding basically for all their foreign viewers, they're including Hulu into Disney Plus itself. So like when they do that, I'm like, okay, I'm totally fine paying the extra money because they had like an investors call and they did like they're doing like 9 Star Wars shows, 7 Marvel shows, 8 Disney shows, a bunch of Pixar shows. Um, they're doing Aliens on FX. Like they like it is like okay, I can see where my money is going, and I don't mind that price increase. But if you're gonna double the price of live and not really have a reason beyond, yeah, we're doing it, like that's what I think sucks the most.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for me, where I'd be okay with a price increase really comes down to I need to see that, the bang is worth the buck. I need to see that, if they were to pivot their subscriptions, specifically Microsoft, if they were to pivot to Game Pass giving you live subscription regardless,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, give me the price increase. Maybe don't make the entire Game Pass library accessible. Like maybe not the brand new games like the
Mm-hmm.
Gears 5 when it first launched and that kind of immediate access, but make it worth my while that I'm, if you're making it $120 American, if it's just have the ability to get shot by a bunch of nasally teenagers and get told I'm shit and that they just had sex with my mom and stuff like that. Sorry, PTSD from Xbox
No,
Live.
that's yeah. I know. It was funny because I was talking about that with the girlfriend yesterday, and I was just like, I will never play a Call of Duty game because I think I hopped into a lobby once by mistake, and I just did not have a good time. And I'm like, how do people do this as a living? I felt like I needed to scrub myself. I think well, okay. The only thing that tops that is it's like the polar opposite because when I first started playing Fortnite, I didn't understand how the voice system works. And I had so many 10-year-olds trying to help me. It was the creepiest thing ever. I just felt so disgusting. Because
Here
like
we are back to Vince playing with children.
I don't it's I don't want to say it's a common theme, but if this was the title episode, it would be playing with children. But like they were just super friendly, like, hey, Mister, come over here. Oh, look, they're Mister. There's good stuff, and I'm just like, please don't talk to me, child. I don't want to acknowledge you're here. Like I guess I went into the team mode, but like I would never stay with my team. I would just go off and do my own thing. And the amount of times I had small children just like cry in my ear, it's like, Mister, I fell down. I need a revive, please, please. I'm like, I'm sorry, kid. Like, if the cops find you, that's on you. I'm getting out of here. I'm going on the run.
Officer, my hands are up here.
It's a switch, sir. I have to hold it with 2 hands. That's in my defense. But yeah, like I know a lot of people. The weird thing I find interesting is people have gone gaga about Game Pass. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just I do think people's perceptions have changed recently because a prime example was the Medium, which is this horror game, and the cool thing is basically I believe it's a button, but like it renders two versions of the environment at all time. So there's like a sane version and then like a hell version, and you can just flip between the two environments like on the fly, which is really cool and whatever. And a lot of reviews came out, and it was just like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine, it's not the best. The ending was kind of crap. I didn't like the controls, I didn't like the character, I didn't like this other stuff, but it's free on Game Pass, so I can't complain. Which is always like the kind of hard thing I have about these, like compared to PlayStation Plus, where I feel it's a lot more curated. Where again, you're gonna get your games are gonna be 2 to 3 years old, but it's usually proven franchises. It's things people like. It's like they're not just gonna pick a random name out of a hat. They're like, all right, what was a highly successful game 2 years ago? But meanwhile, with Game Pass, it does seem a lot more to be the Netflix model of we just want content. I don't care. Just go, 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 go. We need something new every week. And even like going back to Netflix, like recently they said for 2021 they're gonna have a new movie every single week on Netflix. And I think most people's like natural reaction was like, "Holy crap, that's amazing! That's like 52 new movies a year." And maybe it's just a pessimist in me, but I was like, well, like 37 of them are probably gonna be crap, and there might be one or two like truthfully, I don't remember the last Netflix movie I like loved that I was like, oh my god, I have to watch this. Like I have to tell people about this movie. It's usually like, yeah, okay, that was free. Like I do think it kind of shifts people's perspective when they don't have to necessarily take all of that into consideration. Where it's just like, oh, okay, free game is free, and then they play, delete. Like, I know they've done like Battletoads and Flight Simulator and all these various different games, and they've all been okay. But like so far, there really hasn't been that banger first party Game Pass game, and hopefully it can be it with Halo Infinite. But I do find it interesting that like Microsoft is very much going for the quantity over quality approach.
Just on the topic of Halo Infinite, my god, that looked terrible when they put out that gameplay.
Yeah, see, in hindsight, it is kind of funny because they delayed their game like a year and a half, and people were like, "What the heck are you like? How broken is this game?" And then Cyberpunk came out, and people were like, "Okay, no, take all the time you want. Like, delay it to 2022 if you have to. We're fine waiting."
Well, because Cyberpunk is now king of Turd Mountain.
That's a very colorful imagery that I don't want to sit with. But yeah, and it kind of I believe I'm not going to pull up the article, but basically, and again, I do believe I've asked you the same. Right now, it seems like for Plus going forward, it's going to be a PS5 game and then 2 PS4 games. But eventually, that is going to end, and when that like chances are it's probably going to be 2-3 years from now, you would hope. But like at what point would you say that like Plus is kind of becoming too much for you? Because like it's still $60 for the year, which I still think is fantastic. Because again, like that's the thing because I was discussing with someone earlier about how they couldn't get a PS5 and they felt like, you know, bad because they couldn't play PS5 games. And I'm like, I hate that mentality. Like, you should, like, gaming is awesome and gaming is fantastic, but it is a very expensive hobby. And if that means you have to play year-old games or, you know, last gen games or things of that sort, like, you shouldn't have to financially go in debt to keep up with the latest and greatest games. Like even if you only buy 2 games a year, that's still something. And you like, I don't feel like people should force themselves to to keep up with all that hype, because like originally when Cyberpunk was getting previewed, I was like, yeah, it just looks okay. It just looks okay. And like at a certain point, I'm like, I don't really care about this game. The only reason I'm interested in it is because other people are interested and I want to be part of that conversation. And then now I'm kind of like in hindsight, like, okay, no, I'm glad I dodged that bullet.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that speaks to the culture that we live in. You know, it's the same thing with smartphones that, you know, the new iPhone comes out and every mother's like, I need to get it. I need to get it. And it's like, why? Your iPhone that you're using is
The
still
lens
good. Or
screen
in
is
my
like
case, your
point
Pixel
0.4
4.
millimeters bigger.
Take my money.
um, yeah, because I am doing a separate breakdown, so all the price stuff there, but like, having tracked Plus and Xbox Live for the last 2 years, um, their focus has really been on Game Pass. It seems like because PlayStation, it's usually one big game and then an indie, which I think is a nice balance because again, you want that variety. You want to try games you won't necessarily before. And then in the last 2 years, Xbox has just been like whatever table scraps we can find. Like this game is $30. Like, all right, good, go. Um, and I like it is kind of interesting that like I I personally think games of gold and PlayStation Plus are a better value because I think something people forget about Game Pass is much like Netflix, you don't own those games. Like they cycle in and out and like some games will leave the service and come back and they'll like be stuck in like negotiations. So, like I as much as you can own a digital game, I personally enjoy knowing that once I have that game, it's mine forever. Like as long as I keep the subscription going, I have total access to those games compared to Game Pass where it's like I could be enjoying a game and then it's gone next week.
Oh, for sure. You are. But I think that's where PlayStation has a more like customer friendly approach to what they do, where Xbox is how do we monetize this as much as humanly possible without just
Mm-hmm.
holding out giant bag sacks of money for you to dump in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like Microsoft has done some fantastic user stuff. Like I am so upset that PlayStation has not ripped off the design controller thing. Because like if I knew more people with Xboxes, I would just buy them all that for their birthdays, or like you could make the custom buttons and the colors and all that other stuff. And like it's one of those things like I'm not gonna spend like $120 on a controller for myself, but if I can gift someone like a special unique controller, that's really cool. And I kind of wish PlayStation would rip it off.
Yeah, that might be in the future though.
Um, but yes, as I scramble, I think that's gonna pretty much do it for this episode. Let me check my notes. Okay, yeah. So while I quickly do some doobly doings, where can people find you, sir?
They can find me on Twitter. Let me bring up my Twitter handle because I don't often
Yeah, my phone
look
has
at my own page. That's embarrassing.
my phone. I have to say, sir, like every now and again, you'll just sporadically pop up on my feed, and it's always so funny because you're like, it's just like game. Yo, screw you, Trump, go to heck, and then like game. I'm always like, yeah, that made my day better seeing Phil like hassle the president.
That was one of my favorite things about his term as president was the fact that I could just be like, "Hey, shut your fat mouth, you piece of shit," and I wouldn't get kicked off. I got banned from Twitter twice for messages I sent him.
But
But
yeah,
rounding things out, I am on Twitter at PhilipMC13. You can reach out to me there. And then beyond that, I'm just Philip McCabe on Facebook, and I'll talk video games all day, every day.
mm-hmm. You can hear his lovely vocal pipes on audio devices of all ranges.
Oh, on that note, thank you for reminding me. I host a podcast called Mental Health Moments, brought to you by 1059 The Region. You can find that at our website, 1059theregion.com.
It's very hard having multiple accounts because I'm always like, wait, which one do I pimp? At ViralViddy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. That is my personal one where I just post dank memes and show updates and things of the sort. PS Plus Pod, same places: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever. I think I have a Snapchat, maybe. But yeah, and you can follow there for the latest show updates as well as smaller stories that aren't featured in the episode. But before we go, I'm just gonna quickly look at the February games for PlayStation Plus for 2021. You're getting Destruction All Stars for free on PS5, Control Ultimate Edition on both PS4 and PS5, and Concrete Genie on PS4. I know people have really been telling me to try Control, play Control. I'm gonna love Control. I'm excited to check it out. I'm just not a fan of the way they handled their next gen transition. I guess for some clarity, most games from PS4 to PS5, it's just been a free, expansion, whatever. When the PS5 version comes out, you'll eventually get it for free. Stuff like that. Cyberpunk offers it. Watchdog Legion, a bunch of different games offer it. And Control was like, all right, so they announced the Ultimate Edition a year after the game originally came out with like all the DLC and everything in one bundle. And they were like, if you want to transfer your files to the PS5, you have to buy the Ultimate Edition now. So essentially they were trying to get people to buy the same game twice. And they're saying like the only way you can transfer your data is to buy the Ultimate Edition. Now, apparently, recently I've been informed that they have been dropping the price. So it's still $20 to buy the Ultimate Edition, but you still have to buy the game twice if you want to play it on both platforms.
Yeah, that's some hogwash.
Yeah, and I was just saying, like, I wonder how much of that contributed to it being free on Plus, because I know it's on Game Pass, but again, Game Pass is a lot more impermanent. I assume those deals are probably shorter, where like they probably throw a bit more money at PlayStation Plus because they know there's going to be that more, longer shelf life that like a lot of people are just going to add games to their library and never play them. Compared to Game Pass, where it could be on there for 2 months and then it's gone.
Yeah. Control's worth checking out, though. I played it briefly. It's very good.
Yes, and I got very distracted, but yes, so you're getting Destruction All Stars, Control Ultimate Edition, and Concrete Genie, which I have not played myself. I am planning to, but it looks very stylish and creative and imaginative. It's just about this like, I don't know how to describe him, a Seattle hipster kid, but he can interact with the graffiti he sprays on the wall. So like if there's a platform you need, you just like spray a picture of a box and then the box comes to life and then you can jump on the box. So it's really cool. I'm very excited to check it out. Yeah, okay. I was gonna I'm feeling for time because I'm making up the show as I go. And even though we don't typically do it, screw it. We're all up to the things. The Games of Gold games for February are Resident Evil 1, Dandara, Trials of Fear Edition, and Gears of War 5.
That's a pretty good lineup.
Honestly, yes. Like it's first off, it's always a big deal when Xbox gets 3 games, but yeah, again, I have no idea what Dandara is. Apologies to all the Dandara fans out there, but like Resident Evil's okay, and Gears is a pretty decent a pretty decent grab. I also like the tinfoil people that, again, the way we break it down, previous gen games don't count. but they are also offering Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb on original Xbox. And I love all the tinfoil people that have been like, Bethesda's announced a Indiana Jones game, and then this month, Indiana Jones is free with Game Pass. Thusly, Indiana Jones is exclusive to Xbox. I'm like, okay, I don't think that's how math works, but all right, I can feel it.
That is a game that will either be really good or poop.
Mm-hmm. I honestly, I'm very excited because I have no idea what it could be. Like, I assume it's not going to be an open world game like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. So I am kind of interested to see like, oh, this is like a different direction for the studio and whatever. Like, I don't see Indy climbing towers and doing checkpoints. So I'm kind of curious to see what they do with this new direction.
No, for sure.
For
sure.
But yes, that is gonna do it for this episode. Any last final thoughts, sir?
Don't smoke crack and
Awful.
Don't be silly. Wrap your willy.
Always wrap the willy. Just grab the weasel and you just like cover it in cellophane. That's obviously what he meant.
Darn tootin'.
But yeah, so I've been Viral Vinny. I don't use that name on this show. I've been Vincent Kenny. He has been Philip McCabe. And until next time, long live play, whenever, wherever, forever.